Hi, my name is Enid and I wanted to tell you a few things about my life. It's been a really mixed bag. And I'd also like to introduce you to Scottee, who I've known since he was a young teenager, and he's going to ask me some very interesting questions.
Hi, my name's Scottee. I've known Enid for about 13 years now. I do a lot of listening projects with older people, and I've heard a lot of these stories separately, but I've never been able to put them together. And so I kind of want to put them together and kind of get them chronological and kind of work out kind of what actually you got up to, because sometimes I think you can keep it really under the radar. So Enid, we're going to talk about you today. How do you feel about that?
Well, it's quite pleasant talking about me.
You're not opposed to talking about you?
When I was about 16 or so, I fell madly in love with the art mistress, who was very diminutive and beautiful, with lovely red curly hair. And I just behaved ridiculously. I used to wash her apron. I used to tag along after her and hide round corners. But it was one's first experience of love.
And what was that like?
Ecstatic. But I mean, it was never reciprocated in any way whatsoever. And she didn't even think I was very talented, so when I announced that I was going to art school, she said, oh yes.
And what kind of stuff were you making then?
I'm ashamed to say I was very keen on lino cuts.
Why were you ashamed? Was there a stigma attached around it then? Or?
Yeah, it's a bit naff.
Right.
But then I got onto stained glass windows.
Mm. And so how did you make that transition then from kind of just being infatuated with the art teacher and then realising, hang on, this is something which I want to turn into a career?
Well, I didn't know any artists. Well, who does if you live in Purley? So I boldly, there was a magazine called The Studio, and they had an advertisement for artist models. So I thought, that's the way to meet them. So I did, and it really was, taking it all off.
And did you meet artists that way?
Yes, I certainly did. I didn't just do it for professional artists.
Mm.
I used to pose for the Polish White Eagle Club, and one of the members of this art class, they were mostly Polish emigres, and this guy, you can't imagine how cloistered I'd been. I'd never seen a foreign person. I mean, I didn't know what an Indian or an African looked like. I mean, I really didn't. Mm. And so I thought this man was Polish. Turned out he was from Pakistan. But, so I had an affair with him, and he was extremely helpful about getting me into art school. That's where I belonged.
And so then you apply for Central School, which is now known as Central St Martin's School of Art.
Yeah.
How did you apply and what was that process like?
Well, you have to get a portfolio together, just as you do now, and take it along. And Maurice Kesselman was the head of fine arts then, and he said, yes, you can come, you can start next term. So I did. And
what were your parents' attitudes towards you going to art school?
They were a bit resigned. I mean, they didn't know a thing about the artist modelling. I had to really keep it quiet then. I mean, I couldn't tell the other students that I'd ever been an artist model. You couldn't. I mean, it was just, that was very, not on. I discovered Soho for myself, and it was still the time when all the old artists and I missed Dylan Thomas, but there were a whole lot more coming up fast behind him. And there was Dan Farson, all sorts of villains and rogues.
At the French House?
Yes.
Yeah. Did you frequent any of the members' clubs?
Yes.
At the Colony? Or?
Yeah, I did go to the Colony. And Lucian Freud was there, and Francis Bacon. I don't think we were inebriated the entire time. But,
so was it very boozy?
Very.
And
I mean, all those famous people who were famous for drinking a hell of a lot were there. And their heydays were somewhat past it. But they were all sort of gods to people who were just starting off.
And so is that why you kind of were keen to be around them?
Yes. Well, it was just a fantastic way of life. It was, you could wear anything you like, you could the masses of people having affairs all the time.
And it's the early 50s, is that right?
Yes.
And you first start off in the theatre department.
That's right. And I was very keen on theatre then, that the whole of the theatre department was gay. I mean, all the boys were, and well, the girls weren't, but it was very, very difficult to get on in the theatre department if you weren't gay. But there were some jolly good designers in the theatre department. David Walker, who went on to design many ballets and operas, and Anthony Powell, who did Charge of the Light Brigade, and many others. You
definitely kind of discovered yourself at art
Yes.
school then.
And I discovered it wasn't the ladies, it was the men I wanted.
Right. And so then you changed department to graphics, and you spot a guy who's at Central St Martin's who's doing furniture.
He really was the best looking guy there.
And so you graduate, and then what happens?
I had the twins.
So then you arrive in Canada with the two twins.
I got a job at Maclean Hunter, which is, is the leading magazine, and I worked on Chatelaine. I was drawing, which is, which came pretty easy to me. Drawing food. And I was there for 2 years.
Right.
And then we decided that Morris should go down to New York and try and get an apartment and a job. And I would come back to England and work. And I went and taught at Gravesend School of Art. I'd never ever taught art before, but it's amazing how you can fudge your qualifications when you try. And it was Peter Blake, the artist, who got me the job there, because he'd been a student there before, and because he was their star. He's lovely too. And we used to go to parties and dances and things together.
And so then you decide to move to New York with the twins
Yes.
to join Morris.
We had an apartment on East 30th Street and 3rd Avenue. And I worked for Cambridge University Press, which I did for a long time.
How long did you stay in New York for?
4 years. But he and I split up, and it was really quite difficult living on my own with the twins. So when the opportunity arose, I came back.
And so what time are we at now? Are we in the 60s?
Yes.
And did London feel like an exciting place to be then?
Yes. I mean, New York was good, but it was a bit limiting if you hadn't, got any help. I mean, I met Andy Warhol, and a friend of mine was the director of the Guggenheim, and he used to let the children on Sundays run all the way down that sort of spiral.
And when you came back to London, did you carry on with an art career?
I went to work for Sotheby's. I was in charge of the catalogue production, which is sort of roughly the sort of thing I'd been doing before.
Fair to say you've kind of blagged your way into a lot of jobs.
I think you could say that.
Do you still draw and paint now?
Not so much. I wish I did do more. Yeah, this is a picture of Coney Island, and the lady is wearing a wig because it was a very Jewish area, and that was it. But I like to have done some more paintings like that. And that's my daughter.
How old is Susie
She was
there?
about 8, I think, there. And that's Max when he was a baby.
You've also been a published illustrator as well. You had some Teddy books.
Yes.
So tell us about those.
I got a job in publishing as a designer, and after I'd been there some while, I was asked if I'd like to take the job of promotions manager. Well, I would, because it was lots more money and more interesting, you got out. And my job was to take authors out to lunch. We did a lot of lunching. And then I was asked if I'd go and take this guy out to lunch who was an actor, an elderly actor. So I thought, oh God, what a drag. Teddy bears. So I went and met him in an Italian restaurant in Soho called Ruggantino's. And it was love at first sight. I mean, but really. He was there with lots of shopping bags. He'd been to the sales, and he was a big, very big man. He was like you. And he's, look what I've got, taking this enormous blazer up. And, upset the stools. And I just adored him. I got him in quite a lot of, I got him on Desert Island Discs. that is, you know, if you can get your author onto Desert Island Discs, you really are a star. But it was very funny because people used to come up and say they thought I was Peter's wife, and they would say, Mrs. Bull, your husband's given us so much pleasure. And I used to think, wish he'd given me some.